I hear the trumpet calling as clear as a bell, sounding over bloody fields, so many young men fell. At the dawn we honor them, each and every one, lest you be forgotten, our brave Australian.
Born proud of my country, the land flows through my veins. Not having marched in my boots, I find it so hard to explain. I wear this badge with honor on my country's uniform. No, I'm no superhero, I've learned the duties I perform. From a working class background, just a regular Kiwi kid, I went to school and played rugby like most of us did. Played make-believe war games back when we were boys, and G.I. Joe was one of my favorite toys. Raise a flag, raise it up, raise a flag up to the top, raise a flag, unfurl the flag on high. Oh, New Zealand, my homeland, you're worth the sacrifice to keep our country proud and free. Oh, New Zealand, my homeland, Pacific paradise, a birthplace and the home that I love.
I am every Australian who answered freedom's call to leave their homes and loved ones and fight on foreign shores. At Gallipoli and Lone Pine, their legend was begun. I am the unknown soldier, I am Australian. We are one, but we are many, and from all the lands on earth we come. We share a dream and sing with one voice. I am, you are, we are Australian. Your sons and your daughters are now marching by your side. They carry your battle flags and say your names with pride. Your courage and your mateship in all of us lives on. I am the Anzac spirit.
My homeland, Pacific paradise, birthplace and the home that I love, home that I love. My homeland, worth the sacrifice, be proud and free. Oh, New Zealand, my homeland, Pacific paradise, my birthplace and the home that I love, my birthplace and the home that I love.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the residence of the Australian Ambassador to the United States of America this morning for today's Anzac Day commemorative service. I am Lieutenant Commander Kate Nash, and it is my great privilege to be your Master of Ceremonies for this morning's Anzac Day dawn service in Washington, D.C. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 restrictions, this morning we'll be conducting an abridged COVID-safe service. The service is being live-streamed to allow others who cannot be present to join us virtually. Joining us this morning, representing Australia, His Excellency, the Honourable Arthur Senodinis, AO, Australia's Ambassador to the United States of America, and the Head of the Defence Staff Australia, Major General Andrew Freeman, AM. Representing New Zealand, Her Excellency, the Honourable Rosemary Banks, New Zealand's Ambassador to the United States of America, and the Head of New Zealand Defence Staff, Commodore David Gibbs. Representing the United Kingdom, Her Excellency, the Honourable Dame Karen Pierce, the United Kingdom's Ambassador to the United States of America, and the Senior British Military Representative, Air Vice Marshal Mick Smith, CBE. Representing the United States of America, General Mark Milley, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and Dr. Kurt Campbell, AO, CNZM. Representing the Returned Services League of Australia, President of the Washington, D.C. RSL, Mr. Ross Cronkhorn. Ambassador Senodinis, AO, I invite you to provide the Anzac Day remarks for 2021 on behalf of Australia.
Thanks very much, Kate. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Australian residents on this Anzac Day. In Australia, this day is often described as the one day of the year. The story of Anzac has reverberated through the years to become our most important national commemoration. A commemoration forged on a foreign battlefield only a few years into the birth of a new nation, a nation born peacefully and not out of conflict or revolution, but on which World War I left an indelible mark. Over 60,000 were killed and 156,000 wounded, gassed, or taken prisoner, out of a total population of less than 5 million. The effects are there to see throughout the length and breadth of the sunburnt country. In cities and towns, large and small, there are memorials to the fallen. These local shrines become the focus of the community on days such as this. Australians do not gather to celebrate a great victory, but a glorious defeat, made glorious not by pomp and circumstance, or empty triumphalism, but by the courage under fire of so many of our youngest and finest. We celebrate their stoicism, their grit and stubborn optimism. Some of them underage, they were all volunteers, off on what they thought was the great adventure of their lives. But in the tough terrain and trenches of Gallipoli, they did not wilt under the heavy fire, persevering in the most difficult of conditions, not taking a backward step. So many silent, unrecorded acts of valour, personified through the ages by Private Simpson and his donkey, running the gamut of enemy fire to rescue the wounded and fallen. We also celebrate the values for which they fought, decent, humane, universal values that lie at the heart of our great democracies. We have fought in defence of those values throughout so many of the conflicts of the last century and this. Australians and New Zealanders, Aussies and Kiwis, fighting side by side in the Great War with Great Britain and at Gallipoli, all of us in it together. And later in the war, these steadfast allies joined by the United States. And at the Battle of Hamel in 1918, Americans and Australians fighting under General Sir John Monash. The first time Americans were commanded by non-American officers. Bonds were forged on those battlefields, which have only grown with time. And this year we will celebrate the 70th anniversary of the Anzac Treaty. So today, let us remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice. We honour their memory and what they fought for. We offer respect for all those who wear the uniform and are willing to lay down their lives for others. We dedicate ourselves to making a better world where such sacrifice is not necessary, lest we forget.
Ambassador Banks, I invite you to now provide the Anzac Day remarks for 2021 on behalf of New Zealand.
E ngā mana, e ngā reo, ro rangatira mā. Ambassador Sina Dennis, General Milley, Dr. Kurt Campbell, distinguished guests. On this day in 1997, the very last of our New Zealand Anzac veterans died at the age of 97. He was an office clerk who had volunteered for the army in 1915. He was quickly on his way to Gallipoli as a member of the Medical Corps of the New Zealand Expeditionary Force. He survived that maelstrom and went on to serve on the Western Front. More than a century on, we can no longer remember the ordinary people who came forward from our farms, our cities and our small towns in the way that we say in the familiar words of the ode, at the going down of the sun and in the morning we shall remember them. But people like Douglas Dibley went to war, fought, died, were wounded, or survived, as he did. But beyond the span of a human life, they left us with a precious legacy, the spirit of Anzac, a spirit which is deep in the DNA, in the identity of both New Zealand and Australia, a spirit which to this day inspires the military forces of both our countries. And the shared memory of that Anzac sacrifice is the strongest sinew that binds our two countries in an indissoluble friendship. On this day of reflection, we pay a silent tribute to all those who fought and died on the Gallipoli Peninsula, the courageous British, French, Indian, and Turkish servicemen. And gathered here in Washington, we remember with profound gratitude and respect the enormous sacrifice of the United States on so many battlefields, shielding Australia and New Zealand during the Pacific War, fighting together on the Korean Peninsula 70 years ago in the furious fire of the Battle of Kapyong, and in so many conflicts together since. This is a day to thank each other for past solidarity and a day as we look forward to recommit to going forward together. Nō reira, tēnā tātou katoa.
This morning, we will lay 5 wreaths. I invite Ambassador Sanodinis, AO, and Major General Freeman, AM, to lay the first wreath. Ambassador Sanodinis and Major General Freeman are laying a wreath on behalf of all Australians and Australian veterans. I now invite Ambassador Banks and Commodore Gibbs to lay the second wreath. Ambassador Banks and Commodore Gibbs are laying a wreath on behalf of all New Zealanders and New Zealand veterans. I now invite Her Excellency, the Honourable Dame Pearce, and Air Vice Marshal Mick Smith, CBE, to lay the third wreath. Dame Pearce and Air Vice Marshal Smith are laying a wreath on behalf of all British and British veterans. I invite General Mark Milley and Dr. Campbell to lay the fourth wreath. General Milley and Dr. Campbell are laying a wreath on behalf of the United States of America and United States veterans. I now invite Mr. Ross Cronkhorn to lay the final wreath. Mr. Cronkhorn is laying a wreath on behalf of all returned service men and women. Major General Freeman will now recite the ode in English, followed by Commodore Gibbs, who will recite the ode in Maori. On completion of the odes, the last post will be played, followed by 1 minute of silence, then Reveille. Ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to please be upstanding.
They shall not grow old, as we that left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them, lest we forget.
The Ode in Te Reo. I kore ratu, I kaumatoatia, peni ia tātou, kua mahoi nei. I kore hoki ratu, I kore nikoro, a hakoa pene, I ngā aratanga o te wā, I te hikanga atu o te rā. Tai noa, kia ranga mai, I te ata. Ka maramahara tono toto, kia rato. Ka maramahara tono toto, kia rato.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will now play the Australian National Anthem, followed by the New Zealand National Anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. That concludes our Anzac ceremony here in Washington, DC. On behalf of the Australian Ambassador, Arthur Senodius, AO, the New Zealand Ambassador, Rosemary Banks, the Head of the Defence Staffs, Major General Freeman, and Commodore Gibbs, I thank you for joining us on this special occasion.